Right guys, you'll notice things are looking a little bit spick and span. They're also looking a bit sparse. That's because I haven't got anything ready yet. The MG's moved out in the middle and had a little bit of a wipe down. And in the other room we've cleaned down the MGB, which I still haven't got running yet. And we've taken all the sort of random bits of masking tape I had all over the Acadian off. And that's because we've got potentially a special visitor coming today. So a quick word on my last video. Many thanks to all the comments and the feedback on that. It was a really good point of discussion on the consumer law when buying used cars and allowing people to buy cars without the 6-month consumer right in place and just buy them sold as seen as is. My argument being that you can do that from a private buyer with no problems at all. That happens every single day. You can choose to go and buy from a private buyer without any warranties, without any comeback. Why not be able to walk on to a dealer's forecourt and do the same? A lot of people said, yeah, but that would allow for dodgy dealers. The dodgy dealers are already there in place with the current consumer rights. You have option A, you have option B. If you want protection, you choose option A. If you don't want protection, you choose option B and you take your risks. There's plenty of dodgy private sellers out there as well, which a lot of them are traders pretending to be private. So I don't think it allows any more danger of dodgy dealers. Because, you know, I think people need to start taking responsibility for their choices, don't they? So you have choice A, you have choice B. The other thing is a lot of people say, well, James, just sell them all spares or repair. Now, this is a really interesting point, and a lot of you said you'd bought car spares or repair. And it's interesting as well, because I was looking at the terms and conditions of a particular website from a YouTube channel, and it was really interesting to read it, because they were saying that the cars didn't fall under the Consumer Rights Act. You didn't have a right of return, you didn't have the 6-month Consumer Rights Act, they're all sold as unroadworthy, but then in the same breath said that you could test drive them. Now, under the UK law, you cannot sell a car as spares and repair if you allow a test drive. You also cannot sell it as spares and repair if you allow them to drive the vehicle away. So let's say, for example, this MGB, I said to you, I'm going to sell this to you spares or repair. Now you could say, that means I can get out of the Consumer Rights Act, you've got no comeback, you look at it and go, well, yeah, I want the car, it's a really good price, I'll sign off that it's spares and repair. But I can't allow you to test drive that MGB. Well, I guess you could do on my private ground, but you can't test drive it on the road. You also can't drive this car away. So your only options are to come look around the car, say you want it, and have it loaded onto a transporter. The moment I allow you to test drive that on the road, and the moment I allow you to drive that away on the road, it stops becoming a spares or repair sale and falls under the Consumer Rights Act. So although that might be put on paperwork, that's what the UK law is. So obviously, advertising a car spares or repair and then saying you can't test drive it and you have to trailer it away is going to put off a very large amount of people aren't going to be very keen to come and buy a car, and if they do, they're going to want it to basically be scrap money, aren't they? So it's an interesting idea, but it's not quite as simple as you think that you can sell it spares or repair. Also, people said you would just sell them sold as seen. Obviously, again, in UK law, sold as seen doesn't exist. That's an absolute unknown. It's just something people put on paper that is meaningless. Trying to put sold as seen down, if that's seen as trying to withhold someone's consumer rights, then it wouldn't win in court at all. A lot of people also said, James, you've been melodramatic. The law allows for the age and miles of a vehicle. So again, let's take this 2006 Mercedes. So let's say I send this out the door and mechanically it's sound, but the electric seat stops working and they can no longer move the seat forwards and backwards. Now, does that make this car unfit for purpose? No, because it still runs and drives. But do I want to get to the point in court where I'm arguing a toss over whether the seat moving forwards and backwards falls under it being fit for purpose or not, and whether it's fair for a 2006 car to have problems with the electric seat, which I think we'd all agree probably is fair that they're going to have problems with electric seats because it's that old now. But do we want to get to a point in, where we're going to court over that? No, I don't, because I can't win either way. I'm going to get a bad reputation, for having something like that happen. So I'm not being melodramatic, because if you want to run your business properly, there are going to be problems with vehicles as old. And the thing with the law is it doesn't allow for that. Now, if I'm going to sell this vehicle on the basis if it goes wrong, I am going to fix the electric seats. I am going to fix the electric seat butlers. How much margin do you think I need in a car of this age with that risk for 6 months of the amount of little bits and bobs that could go wrong with it? I need a huge margin, and that's the trouble. I had someone come buy a car yesterday and try and knock £500 off of the price of the car. So you're living in a world where someone expects to be able to come and negotiate £500 off of like a £4,000 car and have 6 months to bring it back and cover it. The amount of I'd basically need to have been given the car for free, wouldn't I? I'd need like £3,000 clear profit to cover me for the 6 months for the risks of anything that could happen to the vehicle. So that's the issue you've got with it. Now, obviously, I said that you can sell trade to trade without any comeback. So as long as you're selling to a trader, it doesn't fall under the Consumer Rights Act. Now, what is an interesting point there is that actually you can sell to any business. Business-to-business transactions in the UK do not fall under the Consumer Rights Act. So that does say that if you are a plumber and you come along to me and say, James, I want to buy the i10 off you, trade, and I am invoicing your business, then it doesn't fall under the Consumer Rights Act. I can sell it to you. There's no cooling off period. There's no 6 months. Now, obviously, there is coverage for if something's been misrepresented or the goods are faulty in terms of, you know, there isn't anything set in law, but you could go to court and argue that I sold you faulty goods. That could still be done on a business-to-business contract, but there is not the standard. There is not the standard Consumer Rights Act, and there is not a standard returns rights, that kind of thing, distance selling rights. All of that goes out the window if you sell from a business to business. So that's what a lot of people said with a pickup truck. When you're selling to a business, you don't fall under the Consumer Rights Act. That's actually true of any business, like I said, and any car. So anybody who owns their business or is an authorised purchaser for a business, is representing a business, that comes in here and I'm invoicing a business, then it doesn't fall under the Consumer Rights Act. So they could come and buy a vehicle just as it is without me having to put any more on it. And like I say, if they had a problem with it, then it would be down to them to have it fixed, unless it could be proved that I actually misrepresented the product or sold them a faulty product, which kind of does open it up a little bit again, but there isn't that 6 months whole thing in there because you're not dealing with a consumer. So it was an interesting point discussion. Thanks for all your comments on it. Thanks for your feedback on it. You know, one of the reasons I do this as well is so that I always hear horror stories of what happen to people with cars as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got a car coming back today because there's a problem with it, haven't I? I don't have a crystal ball, I can't see it. I always say it's not the falling down, it's the getting up. It's what you do when there is a problem. So I don't agree with all these comments where people seem to think that dealers have sold them a duff car because they had a problem with the car. It's what the dealer did after that point. Any of these cars, you see me drive them all the time, once they start getting used daily, could develop a problem. It's what happens at that point. It's incredibly unfair, and that's what does frustrate me, is it's incredibly unfair when people jump on dealer. He sold me a car. You know, I saw one where it was like, he sold me a car and 5 months later the gearbox went on it. Well, 5 months later, unless that dealer took the gearbox out of the car and inspected the internals of it, put it back together and put it in the car again, there's absolutely no way that they know after 5 months and say 5,000-6,000 miles there's going to be a problem with the gearbox. If it wasn't crunching, it wasn't doing noises when it's in. That's not a dodgy dealer. A dodgy dealer is that one that then says, well, actually, no, on your bike, it's your problem, mate. Doesn't return your calls. That's a dodgy dealer, not a dealer who sells a car who develops a fault. Because you can buy a brand new car and it develops a fault. That doesn't mean the dealership's dodgy. And that stuff does really get my goat when people are doing that and claiming they've been sold a dodgy car because they've had a problem with it. It doesn't mean it's dodgy, it just means it's an old car and it's developed a problem. It's what the dealer does from that point that determines how good a dealer they are. So look, we've got in the house, guys. We've got the Hubnut gang. And the dogs as well.
Yep, Hubnuts are here.
Yep.
So they say pay it forward. I gave a shout out to the home built guys the other day and they thanked me. And next thing, Ian's messaging me saying, can I pop by? So obviously that paying forward thing works. And I'm not sure how many of you know Betty. A lot of people want to have a clue what this car is, will they, Ian?
No, this is my Australian Ford Fairmont AU that I bought in New Zealand.
And you travelled around New Zealand, didn't you?
All around New Zealand, 5,000 miles, bought it to the UK last year, and now she's done an awful lot of miles here in the UK as well.
She's got a bit of internet fame, and a 4 litre straight 6, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we like, big lazy lumps of torque.
Overhead cam, you know, fancy.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, it works around my channel, Ian, but we don't go over a 1.2 i10 Hyundai. That's about our level.
Oh.
I did just give
Quite a bit bigger than that.
quite a bit bigger. We can fit a few i10s into that. I did let Ian just have a quick go in the Suzuki Swift because I'm telling anyone who will listen what great cars they are for the money.
I'm not revealing anything here. You'll have to come to my channel and find out.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave a lot of the footage from today to Ian's channel because one, he properly set up, he put a mic on me, he had a few cameras on the go, and you know what I'm like, guys, it's as much as you do to hear me on any of my videos. So, but big fan of Ian's channels, watched it for a long while, shared, finished with me on old Citroens and stuff like that. So we're both nutters for old stuff that's slow and fun. But yeah, it was really great to have the guys down today. Like I say, I only really shout out channels I genuinely watch. I've been watching Ian's for a long time. So thanks for coming down, much appreciated.
Most welcome.
And well, that's a subscriber. Sorry, I've forgotten your name, subscriber, for the brownies. But
yeah, but
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, they saved me from myself because I would have done the whole lot in one go. And they're here to witness that the Corsa did actually really run very well when it came back. So I didn't sell an absolute pile of poo, did I? But there you go. But that subscriber has also sent me gifts as well. I'll find them in a second, and we'll get those on camera in a minute when we find what's happened with them. But you're off back to Wales now, is it?
Yeah. On the way back home.
You've been filming a lot of content over the last couple of days, haven't you?
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
bit. It's been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, up and down vids, furious driving, and now here.
So yeah, up and down. He needs to find me that black on black CX GTI.
Yeah.
Hopefully not completely rotten because I haven't got time to fix it at the moment. But yeah, the Crown Vic. I love the Crown Vic. You're a Cletus fan as well, aren't you? Yeah.
He's destroyed many, but at least he won't destroy that one.
They're supposed to be indestructible if you leave them alone, aren't they? That's what they say. But anyway, yeah, great to see the guys. Thanks for popping down. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. We're going to try and get the Acadian up and running, and then Ian's going to come down and have a burnout and that, aren't you?
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll get all this old British stuff out the way, all that rubbish. Yeah. Cheers.